Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just wanted to start by saying the Mayor is running a bit late, unexpected. So hopefully he'll be here in the next maybe 10 minutes, depending on traffic, I guess. But anyhow, we'll steer the ship while we wait for the Mayor. Welcome, councillors, members of the public and staff. I declare meeting open at, what time is it? 7:02. Thank you. Okay, everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and a professional manner, keeping communication factual, use appropriate language and tone. Do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws apply to address in public forum. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette, including debate on an item will commence only once we have a mover and a seconder for the item other than a mayoral minute. The mover has the right of reply before the motion is put to a vote. Raise your hand to indicate you wish to speak, as I will determine the speaking order based on the hand I see then. To speak, please stand, and you are reminded to speak clearly into the microphone. Welcome, Councillor McDougall. On commencement of your speaking on a motion or amendment, please indicate clearly whether you are speaking for or against the motion or amendment. Please ensure you address the chair only rather than other councillors, staff, or members of the public. For the efficient conduct of this meeting, it is not necessary for you to repeat the matters you agree with and raised by any previous speaker. It is sufficient for you to say that you agree with the points raised. I remind all present that the video recording is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. Therefore, all present should ensure that there are no video recordings or photographs taken. I'd like to acknowledge the country. I would like to acknowledge that the traditional custodian, the Gadigal and Aboriginal people of the Eora Nation, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. Opening prayers. I now invite Father Mayoral Santiago from St. Thomas More Catholic Church, Brighton Les Saints, to open the meeting in prayers. Please be upstanding. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow leaders. Let us put ourselves in quiet moments as we begin our meeting with an opening prayer. Almighty, ever-living God, in whose hands lies every human heart and the rights of peoples, look with favor on our based council, the people and community we serve, and on those who govern with authority over us. Mercifully pour out upon them the spirit of your wisdom, that they may decide everything for the well-being and harmony and peacefulness, especially for all of us residents of Bayside Council. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father Santiago. Appreciate you coming. Councillors, we've got some presentation tonight's meeting. We've got three presentations. Our first presentation is an award to Mr. Jeff Rankin. Is Jeff not here? Okay. Okay, sure. Okay, well in that case, Mr. Rankin is not here yet, so we'll go to our second presentation, councillors. Our second certificate we would like to present tonight to Mrs. Kylie Brown for her. She's not here. Is she coming? You know? Okay, we'll go to the third one, which is our last, and I guess we could always go back to the first and second. Okay, our third and final. Well, in that case, it's not really final, so we'll have the first and the second shortly. Okay, councillors. So, awarded to Mrs. Angelina Nashhat. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And so we've got Mrs. Nashhat and her late husband, Mr. Kamal Nashhat. Now, in 1990, Mr. and Mrs. Nashhat opened East Lake News Agency in King Street, East Lakes, and in 1998 moved their business to Coward Street. No matter the location of Mr. and Mrs. Nashhat's business, they have always had the support of their local community. They have built strong, long-lasting relationship with their customers, and their dedication, hard work, and positive contribution have not gone unnoticed. Sadly, Mr. Nashhat passed away in 2020, and this was a huge loss for both his family and the community. Although Camille's wife and daughter continued to run the East Lake Agency, they have now made the difficult decision to close the news agency after 33 years and focus on their health and well-being. On behalf of our community, thank you for the service that you have provided. I now would like to invite Angelina up for a photo and to receive their award. Congratulations, well done. And if any councillor would like to come forward, please do come forward. Councillors, the Mayor has just arrived, so I'll vacate his chair. Thank you. Oh,
They're not here, so we're going to, I think until they come, we'll just keep moving on. So, yeah, we've given this one, but not the first two.
Okay, all right, so then.
So we're up to,
Thank you, Councillor Wada, for chairing the meeting. Next item on the agenda is apologies, which there is nil. Next item is disclosure of interest. I can have the declarations. Councillor Morrissey.
Mr. Mayor, it's one of the motion. It's Councillor Hannah's motion. 12.2. I've got an insignificant non-pecuniary interest. because I am a member of Maroubra Surf Lifesaving Club, which is affiliated with Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, which is mentioned in the background of that motion, but I will be staying in the chamber for debate. Thank you.
Harry?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just non-pecuniary, non-significant in relation to 10.4, the use of the foreshore public open space that I met formally with the general manager, both the two groups that are mentioned in that report.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow?
I have a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in the notice of motion 12.1 because I own a cat. Well,
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor White.
I'm just declaring interest on CPE 23.025. It's the planning proposal at Mascot. Is that right? Sorry, wrong one. Wrong one. CPE 23.026. Planning proposal, authority for planning proposal at 778 to 792 to 794 Botany Road, and Henry Campbell Crescent, Mascot. That's the one I'm declaring interest. So I'll be leaving the chamber.
And Councillor Naji?
Yes, the same, Mr. Mayor, on the basis that I am a member of the panel and I'll be leaving the chamber as well.
Any others? Councillor Douglas?
I would like to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest and stay in the chamber for the Mayoral Minute, which is in relation to my work on Peaceful Streets in Bayside and the founder of the Peaceful Bayside. And additionally, I'd like to declare a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest and stay in the chamber for item 10.4 about the use of foreshore public open space at Muddy Creek because I'm a member of the Bayside Community Garden.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Councillor McDougall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's up there on the screen, but I declare a non-significant or less than significant non-pecuniary interest in relation to item 10.4 on the basis that I work for Minister for Land and Property and there's potential that a decision by the Crown Lands Department may be required on this site in the future.
Thank you. I've also got on 10.4, it's less than significant, but I won't be in the chamber as some of the members are members of my ALP branch, so I won't, none of them have, I don't socialise with them, but I'll abstain from the chamber when this item is discussed. Any others? If not, I'll move that, Councillor, yeah. Councillors, are you going to stay in the chamber or not? Oh, you're leaving, yeah. Well, hang on. Andrew, are you going to be in the chamber or not? Oh, okay, you will. Okay, all right. Any others? If not, can I have someone move that the declarations of interest be accepted? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Sooners. I'll put it all in favour, so aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before your arrival, Mr. Mayor, about the presentation of award to Mr. Jeff Rankin. He's here. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, no, yeah. It is a great honour and to be associated with this citation for Jeff and Joan Rankin. I've known them for many years And they've got a beautiful house on the corner of Watkins Street and Harrow Road, and I commend them for the outstanding presentation in the gardens. They've been excellent community representatives, and they've worked extensively for Lindeman Hall, and also the education of how important heritage and to preserve historical homes. So I'd like to call upon Councillor Barlow to present the award or the certificate. And if Jeff and Joan could please come up. Oh, just Jeff. Oh. Where's Joan? Oh.
No, it's you.
Oh, yeah. We'd like to present this first certificate tonight to Mr. Jeff Rankin and his lovely wife Joan to recognise their extensive contributions to Lindeman Hall. Joan was the original Lindeman Hall committee, and Jeff became a member when one of the St George Historical Society members retired. The Rankins have worked tirelessly for the promotion of Council's historical house, Lindeman Hall. Joan and Jeff were instrumental in ensuring that the state heritage list of Lindeman Hall was able to open to the public every Sunday afternoon. They open the hall every Sunday to show visitors around the hall with a guided tour narrating the history of the hall. The phone was diverted to their home so that any inquiries, bookings can be made. They've always been obliging, and nothing was any trouble. Joan and Jeff were happy to share their wealth of knowledge in regards to the history of the house. They were available most days of the week to conduct tours of the house. This ranged by Probus, local historical societies. Many schools in the area incorporated a tour of the study of the local history of the area. This was excellently done. This was always done in the convenience of the club or school that required. The house was open for weddings being conducted in the gardens. Also, wedding photographs inside and outside this lovely setting of the Lindeman Hall. The hall was also hired for christenings, birthdays, and even as kitchen tea. One event was the hiring of the hall by the Australian Constitutional Monarchy for their first meeting of the June day. Watkins was the guest speaker. Council was lucky to have such dedicated residents that gave such of their knowledge and valuable time to the community. I would like to congratulate you both, Jeff and Joan, for an excellent service to the community. Yep. Taxis. Oh. Well, you own some taxis, don't you? No problem. All right, thank you, mate. Thank you. If I can have a motion. Can I have a move of the acceptance of the previous meeting? Councillor Sooners, seconded by Councillor Najee, I'll put it. All in favour, say aye. Those against, no. Declare it carried. Next item is 7.1, which is the Mayoral Minute on the Hoonian update. You've all been given a copy. Hmm? Can we read it? Oh. Okay. Councillors, this is a very important issue that's affected our community. And the Mayoral Minute has been presented tonight is in line with the Anti-Hoon Task Force that's held a number of meetings. There's some important initiatives that we will follow through to make life a better place for our residents in Bayside. I spoke to our local member, Steve Camper, who is committed to delivering improvements as soon as possible for our residents on it. The time has come to take action, and this will happen. As I mentioned in the Mayoral Minute of the fatality that occurred in Monterey, I turned up the next day, and I'll never forget to the day I die, there was a 4 or 5 year old child that put flowers on the tree. Didn't know who the kids were, and it was such an emotional feeling. I actually went up to the mother and thanked the mother, and I made sure that the TV cameras didn't video record any of that. But it was a very sad state of affair. The sad thing about it is that night I went to Brighton and nothing's changed. I was there last Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Nothing's changed. The Calhouns are terrorising our area. Bayside is a wonderful area to live in, and as I said, I spoke to a local member, Mr. Camper, and he's committed to delivering improvements as soon as possible. And I'll open the floor of the meeting for speakers. Councillor Douglas.
I thank the Mayor for this Mayoral Minute. I think for all of us, and for me personally, after campaigning on safe streets for quite some years, this was actually the worst nightmare for our community that we could think of. I know that personally I was very emotional for weeks, and I think my feelings were shared by many people, that these lives were wasted, these children's lives. And, you know, racking myself, could I have done more? Could we have done more? But I also think that we as a council, I want to thank the council, because I think that we actually have tried very, very hard to do as much as we can. And I want to particularly thank the previous mayor, who has been leading a united front on this, you know, for all the councillors across all political persuasions over the last two years. And I think really now we do need the state government to step in, as we have been calling for. But I do have high hopes that Premier Minns, being a local, and Steve Camper being in power, you know, that we can actually get this change. I think that what's proposed in the Mayoral Minute, the noise cameras being expedited, the anti-hooning task force taking action, and more formal investigation to the weekend closures of Bay Street. I think it looks like we are going to try everything, and the state government is going to try everything and really throw the book at this, including speed cameras as well in strategic locations. So I hope that this can be a turning point for Bayside, and that there will be no more lives lost, and we can start addressing the anxiety that so many of us feel about the unsafe driving behaviour. And I think that we also have to recognise that Bayside is not alone in this issue as well. You know, I think that this issue is statewide, it's Australia-wide, and it's actually a global issue. So by us taking leadership on this issue, we can be a global leader, just like the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea has been in London with their trial of noise cameras, which we've looked to. I think a lot of other councils Australia-wide are now looking to Bayside as a leader, because we have been pushing for the noise cameras. And so I think, you know, as bad as the problem is, at least we can be a lighthouse for other communities who are dealing with this issue. So as much as this has been a terrible traumatic experience, I do have hope, and I'm very happy to see this mayoral minute addressing, the actions that the state government is coming on board to help us with trying to fix this issue once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Councillor Souness?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too was shocked and horrified, but not surprised that there was an accident of that magnitude. My daughters were coming home that night at around 10 or 10:30, I think it was, and said, Dad, we had to go around the Grand Parade because we couldn't get through. Given that the car that actually hit the tree was heading south and hit the tree on the other side of the road. So it's a big deal because you could have had more people hurt and injured with oncoming cars. And if you listen to unfortunately, one of the young boys in the car was recording it. Unfortunately, it was recorded, and then it was viewed by the police and then reported on radio that these two cars had been tagging each other all the way down to La Perouse, came up Foreshore Drive, went past Brighton, didn't go into Brighton, went past Brighton and kept on going, heading south. Now, they were, at every set of lights, they were taking on each other, and this happens all the time. Like, we might want to say, let's put speed cameras on, and I'm not debunking anything and saying that we shouldn't, but we're going to need a lot of speed cameras. It's great to say that the problem is around Bay Street, which it is, because a lot of kids and when I say kids, younger people have cars that can go faster and are a bit noisy, like to go past certain restaurants and show off. But the speeding is more extensive. It is much more extensive. The solution may be something different to what we think. Maybe it's restricting the power of cars that are allowed out there. You can buy a 300 kilowatt car off the shelf now. My daughter has a 95 kilowatt in her car, and that's plenty for her, plenty for a young person. Why does the state government and the federal government allow these cars that have got massive power, at a switch of a button you can turn down the volume on the exhaust pipe, closing off part of the mufflers, and then you don't get this noise. Disappears. It's quiet, but it's still pretty fast. So there is a solution. I don't know what it is, and I really want to get to the bottom of it, because I don't want to come home and watch that news, and then the next morning I saw the tree as well, and I think I called the general manager and mentioned one of the car hit the tree, severely hit the tree, and then for the first time in weeks, literally weeks, I saw a highway patrol the very next morning hiding in the bushes, trying to pick up speeders. Now, to me, they should be prominent. They should be cruising up and down, making it impossible or making it so difficult for people in cars that want to speed to actually speed, because they're going to get caught. If you've got a patrol car going up and down at those crucial hours, I can see Saturday night between, say, 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's probably one of the most crucial hours, if not Friday night and Thursday night, but let's say Saturday night. If you had a patrol car, you'd reduce the speed with a lot of people tremendously. And let me not touch upon bikes and the noise that the bikes make, and when they take off from lights and all this. The residents have had enough, but it's nothing that they control. They can whinge and cry, but I don't think even the state government can fix this problem, because we've let it go for so many years. As most people know, Hasham's used to be a hangout. That's gone. The hangout's now further down at the bottom of near the bottom of Dole's Point. They do the loop and then they go back. They don't need to go to Bay Street. Bay Street was fun once upon a time. Now they know they don't need to go to Bay Street. Tonight we're actually closing Bay Street on Saturday night for a few hours, trying to limit them, but they'll circumvent that and go another way. So there is a solution. We've got to get our heads together and get to the bottom of this, because other young people and the innocent have passed away. I can understand if you're driving and hit a tree yourself because you're speeding or stupid. But if you have another innocent person in the car, or someone's oncoming, it's the worst. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sedgwick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank you for bringing this motion, Mayoral Minute, to the floor, and I want to thank our previous mayor as well. I know that she's been working quite hard in this department, and I know there's a lot of talk right now, and there's a lot that's happened in the media. This motion is really about our condolences as a council. We all know things need to change, our deepest condolences are to the family and to the community. We should not, and I've tried to stay out of this, politicise this in any way or make it a campaign issue. I think we need to be really careful. There's so much media around this, negative and positive. The community, as Councillor Tunis has alluded to, have been affected. I have had numerous phone calls, people that have had car accidents, people that have lost their children in one in particular that lost their children in a car accident, and this just brought back memories. So I really, before we put out this flag and say we need to do this and we need to just be really sensitive, it's a really tough situation. You're right, Councillor Tunis, we can't put 7 speed cameras on General Holmes Drive or Grand Parade. Whether the police is involved or council's involved, at the end of the day, this is a cultural shift that needs to take place. Straight after this event, the police were out on blitzes that weekend and the weekend after for 3-4 weekends in a row, and numerous fines were issued. This does not change the behaviour. This has never changed the behaviour. It's been going on for over 30 years, as we all know. I think now we've got to get to the point where, as a resident has told me, and no longer should this be called hooning behaviour, speeding behaviour. When this happens, when kids at the age of 9 and 10 are filming this event, we've seen footage on TikTok where kids are stealing cars, filming themselves, going 300 kilometres an hour and daring others to do the same, steal a car and go 300 kilometres an hour. This is happening all over Sydney, in particular Bayside in Ward 5, General Holmes Drive, Grand Parade, because of that beautiful stretch. What police and council and state we need to do is come together and be really sensitive, but we need to really focus our attention that this is no longer hooning or speeding, this is criminal. This is criminal. For a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old boy who have never seen life to be filming this and die instantly, no matter what we do and no matter what we say now, is going to bring these boys back. And so, as much as I'm thankful that we're bringing this out there and we're showing our deepest condolences to the family and the community, and it affects all the community. It's not just Ward 5 or Grand Parade. Anyone that's had a child of near anything, it brings back memories. So I think if we're going to do anything, it's one, just understanding the sensitivity of this, and that we need to look at a cultural shift. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make some brief comments. Thank you for bringing this Mayoral Minute, and thank you to all councillors for their comments. I just think this is such a horrifically tragic loss of life. I'd just like to reflect, I think there is a real flow-on to the community. Like Councillor Sonis's children, I was heading northbound on the Grand Parade that night at about 10:30, and I turned off when I saw the traffic stoppage vehicles and didn't think about anything of it until the next day. But when I found out what was there, just a few hundred metres up the road, and if I'd left a bit earlier, I would have been there at the same time. I still find that quite disturbing, and that's at a very, quite a removed degree from the actual incident. So I think we should also just acknowledge, the first responders who would have been there from our local hospital, everyone from RMS who has to come in the worst time in these situations. And I just think the state government and local government, now is the time to do everything we can. I agree with Councillor Sonis. A big part of this is behavioural. Government can only do so much unless we're going to stick a dual drive in every single car. Because this behaviour, I think we need to be clear, is just, it's unconscionable, it's negligent. And as Councillor Cedrak said, we shouldn't allow this to continue to be seen, as something that is in any way trivial. Hooning in many ways underestimates just how serious this behaviour is and what the consequences of it are at the extreme degree, as we've seen here. But it's obviously a very traumatic time for the families, and I share the, support of the Mayoral Minute and Council offering its condolences.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Thank you. Next item is items by exception. Councillors, if anyone, Councillor Curry?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can we please pull out item 10.2 and item 11.5, which is the Traffic Committee, item BTC 23.113, please?
Yep. Councillor Morrison? Councillor Muscat? Councillor Bardell? Councillor Jensen? Councillor Najee? Councillor Souness? Yeah, 119. And was the other one Andrew? Oh, you put it, yeah. Okay. Councillor Werner? Councillor Water? Councillor Barlow?
CWA 23.022.
Please, which one was that again?
CWA
Yep.
23.022.
Oh, yeah. Tunbridge.
I've got to correct the minutes.
Okay. Yep. Councillor Hammer?
10.4, Mr Mayor.
Yep. Councillor Douglas?
11.1 CS23.036, please.
You got it? Hmm? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was Councillor McDougall. Anyone else? No, Councillor Sedgman. Okay, and item 10.5, that's, I seek that, that item's going to be withdrawn and reported back to, October's meeting. We don't need it. If not, can I have someone move that the rest of the paper be adopted? Moved by Councillor, seconded by Councillor,
Sorry, did we take the confidential item out? No.
no, do you want,
Should we take that out, the confidential item, and pull that out as well so we can discuss it?
oh,
Yeah, thank you.
yep. So you'll speak on that when we go into confidential? Oh, okay, all right. All right, with those, with the exception of those items, including 14.1, if I can have someone move it, Councillor Souness, seconded by Councillor Najee. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. 10.2. Who pulled that out? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, just in relation to the 6-monthly progress report, in relation to 4.3.2.13, which you can find on page 50, just could we please have an update in relation to where we're up to with the customer service experience? It particularly talks here to the charter, and I know that we're going out for community consultation at the moment, and so Mr Chair, Mayor, if you could just give us an update on where we're up to, please.
Yeah. I'll get the director to give you an update as requested.
Through you, Chair, thank you. Yeah, as discussed, we are out at the moment getting consultation on the community survey data, which will form part of the strategy. So the plan was, once that's completed,
We'll bring a report back in, I think it's targeted for the November, December, to bring everything back to committee to then go out on an exhibition with the charter of the strategy it'll be over the February period now because we won't go out over January, and then bring it back to council for adoption early next year. That's the plan at the moment.
All right. Councillor Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just ask a question about 2.1.2.1, which is on page 70? Just curious to know why the Summer Foreshores program, which involves beach raking and various things to do with the foreshore, sits under support cultural and arts events that reflect and involve community. Is that a typo, or because I wouldn't see that as a arts specific event?
I'll get the general manager. Oh, Richard?
Through the chair, while I think that the connection isn't obvious, I think the reason it has been placed there is because the Summer Foreshore program, if you remember, also involved quite a few Christmas and New Year events when it was created, and ensuring that the environment, that the beach buddies were recruited, that everything was in place to allow that to occur. You're probably right, it could go in other places, but it's a legacy, it has stayed in that particular area.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I would suggest that it potentially does go to another area now with the development of the arts and culture strategy. There's probably a better spot for that to sit.
I'm told it'll be done. Not the current one, but next year's one. So, Councillor, as soon as you're moving it. Yep. Any other sector? Jensen, yep. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Next item, councillors, is 10.4. I'll get Councillor Wilder. Do you mind chairing the meeting for this? Joe. Yeah.
Councillors, we're on 10.4. We've got an officer's recommendation. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Souness, seconded by Councillor Naji. Any discussion, councillors?
Just before everyone makes a vote, I did ask for a copy of the Board of Directors on some of the applicants that have come here that are applying or mentioned in the report, because I don't know if anyone can vote on anything if we don't know who the Board of Directors are.
I'll get the GM to make a comment on that.
I don't know who they are.
Is it okay? We'll get the GM to make a comment on that.
Sorry, I've got it. No, it's got the wrong page. Sorry, I'm just finding the page there.
You haven't.
Councillors, this is actually asking you for permission to go to expression of interest. It's not asking you at this point in time to determine who will be successful and who will occupy the site. So when we come back to you with the results of the expression of interest, we always include the key office bearers and those that hold positions within the organisations that have expressed interest and those that we are recommending. But at this point, it is going to be an open process, and so therefore it's not appropriate for us to provide that information at this stage.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Any other comments? Councillor Jansen?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question as to what's the anticipated timeline for the EOI and when would we expect to have a report back?
We anticipate, if this is adopted tonight, we'll be going out for the expression of interest within the next fortnight.
Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I have a question through you, Mr. Acting Mayor. This outline, I think, takes in land that's not owned by council. From memory, we're talking also Crown land and maritime. I'm just a little bit curious. I want to get some information on what authority we have to go out with an expression of interest in respect of land that we actually don't own or necessarily have control of or owner's consent. I'm just I'm concerned about that I just want to make sure we're not putting the cart before the horse, if
Sure.
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a very good question, I guess.
Through the chair, as the director has just confirmed, council is the owner of the land component that is within the square or the rectangle, and that separate approval will be required for any of the waterfront, the structures that are over the water. So they would certainly require a separate approval. We have expressed it with that square around it to show the area that we would be expecting there'll be interest about. But we'll make it very clear in the documentation that additional approvals will be required if they wish to use anything over the water.
Councillor Douglas.
Through the chair, I note that it says, given that there are several groups with an interest in being present in the location, it is recommended that a formal expression of interest campaign be undertaken so that all interested parties can make a submission on a level playing field basis. Does that mean that the EOI is only going out to the people who've already expressed interest, or will there be a transparent advertising
That'll be
process?
open.
For confirming
Yeah.
there's a
That'll be
transparent
definitely
process.
open, yeah. Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Any other, Councillor Souness?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Deputy Chair. The question is, remediation of the site, is that still beholden on the current users? Because really the word tenancy probably doesn't come into play here because they probably don't have a formal agreement. Or is it bestowed on the people coming in? Will that be a burden for the new people coming?
The GM?
I guess on a couple of levels, if you're talking about remediation of the underground, the tanks, those things, that burden sits with the state government regardless of who the tenant is. We would expect that when we award the OI, depending on the outcome and which party is successful, council will be seeking vacant possession of the property.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, in the light of that answer, is there other remediation required? Because we mentioned the tanks, and I know about the tanks. Are there other areas, or do we need to do geotech inspections before we tell the people, yes, this is clean, this is not clean, this is fit for purpose, and so on?
Through the chair, we have been undertaking a number of additional testing sites. We've done some core drilling of the former foundations and structure for the old clubhouse. The contamination results have been pleasing. It hasn't been as contaminated as we thought it might be. We'll be providing a summary of all of that information for the tenderers so that they will be aware of any latent conditions and that the restrictions that actually causes on the site.
That's pretty clear, isn't it, Councillor Souness?
It's clear. So my final question, I'll let it go. So if the case is that the burden isn't monetarised, in other words, we don't know how much it costs, people have to estimate how much to remediate. that site or in order to move forward. If we don't get a tenderer, does the burden fall back on this council then, now that we know that there's contamination there, to make the area safe, so to speak, cap it or whatever we do, and then allow it to be something else for public use? Is that the intention in the long run? If we have no sufficient or non-sufficient people coming to the fore to want to use this site?
Through the chair, if the result of the OI is either lack of response or responses that we couldn't recommend to council, we will be putting forward alternative approaches as to how the site can be used and what works would be required on the site.
Thank you, GM. Any other comments, Councillor Barlow?
Just a comment that, you said you've got 3 people listed. How did they know anything about it, or they just walked in the door and said, I'm looking at the site? Yeah, because there's that new boating one, and then marine rescue, I know they're there, and the commercial recreation one are there, but suddenly we've got all these other people looking, so, without being advertised. I mean, they've all got...
So you are correct, Councillor Barlow. We haven't advertised this. One of the groups mentioned the existing occupiers of the site. The other boating group are basically very similar members, so they have connections with the current organisation. So they would have obviously been talking amongst themselves. And of course, Marine Rescue has a relationship down there and has a presence down there. So basically, the 3 organisations have a connection to the local site already.
Thank you. Councillor Hannah?
Just one further follow-up to my previous questions. Have we had any indication from Maritime as to what their view is on this? Have we got any feeling as to what their reaction to this is? Because my understanding was that there was concerns that stuff was being done there that was in breach of Maritime, and I'm just, I've got some concerns about this. I've got to tell you, I think my own personal view is we're putting the cart before the horse, it seems, because there's loose ends.
Get Mr. Barber to answer that question.
Through you, Chair, we have had some preliminary discussions with Transport. They do have some concern about some of the activities down there, and a number of the structures and pontoons down there don't have any approval from them. At this stage, they've said they'll be led by council in terms of what we think is appropriate on the land side, and then look at what's required to support those activities over the water. So the last conversations we had, they weren't looking to take any action straight away. They were happy to let council go through the process we're going through, and then work with us and whoever occupies the site.
Yeah, I guess if I could make a quick comment, what we're voting on tonight is going into an expression of interest, which will really clarify, once it's out there in the public, it'll clarify a lot of other issues, because I'm quite sure tenderers would want to find out more answers to what they're being given. So it'll be a lot clearer in, so the tender's going out, expression of interest going out in the next couple of weeks, isn't it? And it'll go out for how long? 28 days. So once that's gone through, I think we'll have a lot more information about it. So if there's no other comments or questions, we've got a motion moved by Councillor Souness, seconded by Councillor Najee. All in favour say aye. Again, declare it carried. Thank you. Can we call the Mayor back in, please?
Which one? Oh. Another one. Thank you. Next item, councillors, is CS 23-036, the draft Bayside Library Strategy. First one was drawn. Yeah, we dealt with that earlier, yeah. Oh, councillor Douglas, yeah.
The library was my question. I wasn't sure if you were going to 10.5 first. The library was my question.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if you were going to 10.5 first.
That we've dealt with 10.5.
Okay. So I've just, reading the report, I'm just wondering if there is any update on what's happening to the Brighton Le Sands Library site. I've had made numerous representations on behalf of community residents asking what's happening with that site over the last 8 months, and was told to wait for the library strategy to be released. And it's not clear from reading the strategy what the actual plan is.
General Manager.
I'll answer that one. So as councillors would be aware, the building itself is the issue with the library site. And what we have spoken about in very general terms is looking at alternative locations for a community library hub in Brighton. I think it's probably a longer conversation and it's a more detailed conversation than we would have here in the council chambers, but it is part of the strategy to really create a much, I think, a more modern and a library presence that is part of a bigger community hub in Brighton. So that's, I think we could bring that back to a committee where we could actually sit down and work through with you what those alternative sites are, what they would be part of, what development. Some of you will have attended the property working groups when we've talked about our land holdings in Brighton and how we could capitalise on those to really build a very, I think, a dynamic and modern community hub in Brighton.
So through the chair, could I ask that we make an amendment then and put a 0.5, which is based on the General Manager's response, that a report be brought back to the relevant committee around options for the relocation of the Brighton Le Sands Library and discussion. We went with relocation of Brighton Le Sands Library as part of a community hub. Yep. And could I also ask that we communicate to the community what the fate is of that building? Because I'm not sure what the plan is for the actual building. I guess could we potentially have that as part of the 0.5, that a plan for the existing library building also be included in that report?
Yeah, that can be done.
The future, sorry, the future of the building also. Thank you.
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Douglas, seconded by Councillor McDougall.
Sorry, can I just suggest an amendment to that point? Just the word relocation, I think, assumes that you wouldn't redevelop it on the existing site, and I don't think we should close that off as an option. So I think it should speak about options for the Brighton Le Sands Library.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour. So aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Next item. Oh, the planning. Councillor Wilder and Councillor Nagy. Those two up here. Yeah, 025. Yeah. Oh, there's two items, okay. All right, so we're on CP CPE 23-025, which is the draft planning proposal to remove additional permitted uses, 34 and 35 of the Bayside Local Environmental Plan of 2021. So if someone could move it. 25. Yeah, because there's got to be a division. Right, Councillor Morris is seconded by Councillor Jansen. I'll put it all in favour, say aye. Those against, please raise your right hand. Yeah, oh, sorry, division. No, it's apparently though, this is whether, this, yeah. All right. Are we ready? All right. Councillor Curry. Councillor Morrissey. Councillor Muscat. Councillor Fardell. Councillor Jansen. Councillor Nagy. Councillor Souness. Councillor Werner. Councillor Wada. Councillor Barlow. Done. All right. Councillor Hannah. Can I abstain? Councillor Douglas. Councillor McDougall. Councillor Sedrak. 4. Okay. I'll declare it carried. Thank you. Next item is that's the CPE 23-026, which is the planning proposal. Yeah, Michael, Councillor Wada and Councillor Nudge. Moved by Councillor Morrissey. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jansen. Any speakers? If not, I'll put it.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
I want to speak.
Okay.
I
Sorry, Councillor.
actually, I had hopes for the new state members that they would not follow the Liberal line of just selling off their public land to private developers and only get a token back. Now, that to me is disgraceful, and to want a story, the height they want on Botany Street opposite the Memorial Park is incredible. Now, Eden Street was bad enough, but that was sort of on a highway. It was different. There was a lot of high-rise around. This is, I think, the beginning of the end of Botany Road. And I believe that the message should be, doesn't matter what you are, Labor, Liberal, Green, whatever, they have not thought, apart from the fact, give the developer the money, we'll just take something back. And this is worse, because the other one I think was 4 stories, bigger land. Now, and you're going to impact on that next house, the little street around, I think it's Kendall Street. It's just the beginning of the end of that area of that street there. And I believe that we can't stop it. We've got no control over it. I'm disappointed. The housing minister, I heard her on radio the other day. Now, why doesn't she fix? I know it's not her fault. They inherited this from the government that had been in there for 12 years or whatever. 4,000 empty homes. Why don't they do that? Why aren't they looking at doing things for the future, not selling it off to a developer and getting a token back? You know, I don't know how many they're getting back, but there's a token at Eden Street as well. So as far as I'm concerned, the government, I'm disappointed that they're going down the same way that the previous government did.
Councillor Werner.
I agree with what Councillor Barlow has just said, and I just want to add that the people who are evicted from those apartments then end up on the, it just makes the waiting list even longer, and there's a whole lot of people being evicted from the Waterloo redevelopment as well, and where are all those people going to live? So what really should happen is we should create extra public housing that doesn't exist yet, and then, if need be, refurbish those homes when the people who are currently living in them have somewhere else to go. But at the moment, there's just no extra public housing for them to go. So I think it's the wrong way of going about it.
Thank you. Any speakers? Councillor Morrissey.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to clarify, just for the record as to what this is about, council opposed this, and it was you, Mr. Mayor, when this first came to council, you said it's not enough social housing in this development, and we were united in that. And this supports what councillors Barlow and Werner were talking about. So we rejected this. Actually, that was the problem. We deferred this issue to open up conversations with the proponents to work with us, work with council on incorporating their ideas into the master plan along Botany Road from Gardeners Road to Wentworth Avenue. So we deferred it in good faith to say, we want to work with you. We don't actually agree. We don't like what you're doing. And that's, again, what Councillor Barlow has said. But we'll defer it so we can actually open up negotiations. Now, we did that in good faith, and unfortunately, the government didn't like that. And they said that we just want to rezone it then, which then means they can bypass council, knowing what our united views are on that. So what this talks to is that we are they've said, do you want to be the planning proposal authority, which actually allows us to conduct the community consultation in whatever way we see fit. We will be paid to do that by the government to actually undertake that community consultation. And then council, as a body, we then provide a recommendation to their planning panel as to what our community thinks. So this is the opportunity for us to actually have a proactive say in what is happening to our community. I don't like the development. I think it's wrong. And there's still a question that was raised in the committee about where's the ambulance station going, because the ambulance station forms part of this development. And the government, I'm a proud ALP member, but the government hasn't actually told us what's happening to the ambulance service that is actually located on that site. So there's a few things that need to be discussed. By actually accepting the role of the planning proposal authority will give us the opportunity to have a say on behalf of our residents as to what the outcome might look like. And the way I described it at the committee, and I'll describe it again this way now, is it's the least worst option for us. This will give us a chance to have a say. If we say no to this, and this is where I disagree with Councillor Werner just rejecting it outright, it's not about the development itself, it's about being the planning authority. So if we say no, we don't want to be the planning authority, we as individuals can write letters, but we have no voice as a body, and that's what this is seeking to do. So as the least worst option that's available to us right now, this is the way to go, in my view. Thank you.
Any other speakers? I just want to support what Councillor Morris has said. I'm a strong believer in social housing, and we've got to ensure that we get a better deal than what we got at Eden Street, Arncliffe. And Councillor Morris is 100% right. We've seen over the years what's happened if we weren't part of the process. We just get overridden. One only needs to look at the Bexley North Hotel. We rejected it. I went to the Department of Planning, and they basically gave consent. So this is 100% right. This is the best of the worst situation, because we get then to process it, take on board the issues, and hopefully the government will listen to our concerns. And it's the worst, in my opinion, it's the worst possible time considering the situation with the rental market at the moment. You know, people are struggling. It's very hard, and basically just to turf the people out on the streets, to me, that's not humane. But and I have total confidence in our local members will take up our fight on it. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What particularly irks me is not only will social housing disappear, we're creating a housing lot or a housing bank, if you want to call it, for 1.3 million, 1.4. You just drive down Eden Street, Forest Road. You can see the signs up there. It's marketed at people that are well off, and we're kicking out people. That's the low end. How many of the low end would there be? We're kicking out people that are down on their luck, that they're pursuing social housing to at least stay on their feet, and we're saying off you go. We're bringing up a new class of people in here because they can afford the 1.2 million, 1.3 million dollar price tag, with a view of Botany Bay or a view of the city and so on. So it's really disappointing that this Labor government is following in the footsteps of the Liberal government over these past years, and the rhetoric that I don't blame the rhetoric that comes out of the government at the moment saying we want more housing. Well, this is a bad way of going about it. It's not creating opportunities for other people. Why create three bedroom apartments when you can create 2-bedroom and house more people, make it more affordable? So I don't understand. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, I shall call for a division. We want Councillor Curry, Councillor Morrissey, Councillor Muscat, Councillor Pardell, Councillor Jansen, Councillor Sooners, Councillor Werner, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Hannah, Councillor Douglas, Councillor McDougall, Councillor Sedrak, and myself for. I declare it carried. Oh, agree. I'll declare it carried. If we can ask Councillor Wilder and Najee to come back. Welcome back. All right, we're on CWA 23.022, update on Tunbridge Reserve 3-point basketball facility. Councillor Barlow.
Just as a correction to the minutes, it said that I seconded the motion.
So you're moving it?
It was either it was Muscat, I think, it wasn't myself. And I also asked to have my name recorded against as abstaining from voting. So I was just correcting the minutes.
Could someone move the Councillor Sedrak? Do I have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Sooners. All right, so you are basically just want the minutes corrected.
Well, the minute, yeah, it's, I didn't second the motion, I didn't move it, because I totally disagree with it, because there's one round the corner, and I believe that there should be a fairer distribution.
We got it? Past that, we got it? All right. Who seconded it at the Councillor Muscat. All right. No, the gentleman said in terms of the minutes of the meeting. Yep. Yep. Any other speakers?
I'm sorry, I didn't move the motion.
No, you've
I want my
moved for
name
the correction.
off there altogether.
Yeah, the correction.
Where's the correction?
That's the correction. So then now we go back to the original recommendation, which was moved by Councillor Sedrak. It's seconded by Councillor Sooners.
Oh, where are we now?
Mr Mayor, maybe perhaps that could be made just a little bit clearer. I mean, the minutes are being approved subject to them being corrected. So if that could be just
Yep, it's
outlined a bit
Councillor Hunt,
clearer
yep.
that way, that might satisfy.
Councillor, what Councillor Hannah was saying, can you take on board? Yeah. All right, so everybody clear on that? I'll put it all in favour side. Those against no, declare it carried.
Oh, well, you can have my name recorded against it consistently.
Okay.
I'm not prepared to support something when there's a full facility around the corner.
All right. Okay, I'll bring it back. Councillor Buzz asked that she be recorded. Yes, sir. All right. Next item is BTC 23.113, which is George Street, Bargle Valley. Proposed no parking. Councillor Curry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. This came through the Traffic Committee, and at the Traffic Committee, there was a concern raised about it, and since that time, staff went and had a look at it, and based on that, I move that we remove this, that we don't support this. We remove this item because it actually is not in the best interests of, the outcome is not what was intended.
All right, it's moved by Councillor Curry, seconded by Councillor Souness. Councillor Souness.
There was a lot of concern by the resident. We brought this matter up to, I guess, to support the facilitation of the rubbish trucks, the way it works. Is that correct? Good answer. Why, I'd like to know why we're putting residents in such angst just for the sake of the rubbish truck. But no, the rubbish truck comes once a week. Yet we wanted to block their parking or their areas of their property from Monday to Thursday. Well, the rest is Monday and Thursday. So it's not, we only go there once, so that's a bit weird. They go there twice, did I go? They got flexibility, you might go there once. But it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is, the left hand should be communicated with the right hand, not to bring that up, because the resident won't speak tonight. They sit in the corner, so don't bother coming in because you're going to get rid of it. But let's not put out these things for people not knowing what's going on.
So, through you, Mr Mayor, collections in complexes collect twice a week, so on Monday and Thursday. No, there's townhouses behind, so it is multiple housing. We collect twice a week, yeah.
Yeah.
So just for my edification then, if it's multiple houses, because I see them down my street, Alfred Street, so the people in the audience can hear us and the rest of the councillors can familiarise themselves with what happens, do we ask the body corporate or the organisation that runs that particular block of units or townhouse or whatever it is to present the bins outside? And then do we obligate them to collect them at a certain time? So I notice sometimes there's a big mishmash, sometimes there's difficulty in parking in certain streets. Alfred Street's a prime example, and I know there are other streets on my way to work, and I see so many others. So what's the state of play?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. The current collection contractor provides a wheel in, wheel out service where they pull the bins out for the collection, and then they pull the bins back in. Where a particular complex doesn't want that service because of security reasons or because they've got special codes, they can choose or opt to present themselves. This is sometimes done through their building manager or their cleaners, or through a third-party operator for presentation.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll put it all in favour, so aye. Those gets no, declare it carried. Next item is BTC 23.119, pole mounted electrical vehicle charging units at various locations in Bayside. Okay, moved by Councillor Souness, second by Councillor Curry.
That particular space in the car park, let's see whether it's landscape, whether it's botany, wherever it is, they've got a monetary value. If people can park there after an hour, what does it mean to us? And if the vehicle parks there and overstays, what do we do with it? It's got big stuff to do it. What do we do? What's our opportunity to move on?
Deborah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The situation with the parking is that we're currently looking at only holding a trial parking location so that we have the opportunity to have 7 parking locations within the LGA that are fully funded at no cost to council. So we have chosen locations, and in consultation with the traffic committee, locations that are all off street, so not in front of residential parking areas, but that are in front of council parks and reserves. The situation in dealing with cars that park there, and in response to your question about a policy, it's currently in development, but this trial that came along was too good for us to refuse, a fully funded trial by the state and federal government. So the situation with infringements is that the New South Wales state government legislation relating to infringements. So if a vehicle has its charging plugged in but is fully charged, which will be shown on the meter, then it can be infringed for just sitting there. So you can't sit your car there all night. And if you don't have an electric vehicle, you can't park in that space. So all of these considerations are being taken into account in the development of our policy, which has a lot of intricacies, I have to say. But this report is really about being a part of the trial project that we want to participate in because it's at no cost. So it'll be a good place to start.
Thank Councillor Douglas.
I'm just interested on why site 64445, the Grand Parade, Brighton Sands, was not recommended in the final recommendations. If I could get some information through Chair.
If I can assist, so that was on the traffic committee, and it was discussed extensively, and where some of the suggested placements was not, the committee didn't feel was appropriate, because what happens is if you put a charging station there, it loses a parking spot. The only time a car can be there is if it's an EV car and it's charging. So if it's charged, and then because the committee felt because of the high turnaround there, that losing a spot directly there in that area was not supported. So what the committee asked was for the officers to go back, and there was a number of other sites that were proposed, which the committee also suggested be re-looked at, and that the first priority be to look at council car parks or other facilities where there is a lot of a turnover and a high need, rather than in random places because a particular pole is the right pole. So.
Councillor Douglas.
Could I just make a suggestion that we make an amendment to suggest that locations take into consideration the opportunity for promoting prosperity to small shopping areas as well, because I know that this has been done in other communities like West Walden and Newcastle, where it's a kind of backward, out of the way shopping centre, but they're having a car charging space that brings business to the local shopping centre that wouldn't otherwise be there.
The only thing, Councillor Douglas, if we could move, because I think number 2, so the report come back to committee with options for EV chargers in the council car park.
Yeah.
We can include it, shops,
Yeah,
as CBD,
yeah.
rather than have the amendment.
With
Councillor
consideration for opportunities for prosperity for small business centres.
Okay, Councillor Jansen?
Can I just clarify, in this particular trial, there's only a limited number of EV chargers, and I believe that this 7, and this has come to committee already previously, and we were asked to make some suggestions, and then I believe it's gone to the Transport Committee. So I feel that in the case of this particular trial with the 7 charges, that this amendment might delay it, because I believe there's a certain timeline that this trial needs to consider. So this is the final stage. So I'm not sure through you, Chair, whether that can be clarified, but I just think that it's not the right amendment for this particular trial.
I'm suggesting that, you're right, Councillor Jansen, I'm suggesting we take away the amendment, and as the report comes back with options at a future date. Councillor Barlow?
And it was Councillor Curry that made the comment, and I made the same comment. The sites that were presented at the committee were totally different to the sites that were presented to the traffic committee, and I'm saying some of them were not suitable. I mean, you don't have them outside someone's personal house, you can help it. And I believe that the manager of resilience has gone and looked further, because Bexley Town Centre didn't have anything. The whole problem is it's a criteria that they've got to meet, and it's got to be a wooden pole, can't have the metal thing around that says it's got white ants, it's got to have the bracket at the top, can't be just a light pole. It's totally specific. It's not the ones that we saw first where they were built specifically in the car park. That's why the one at Railway Street at Rockdale's fine, because that's an open car park close to the road and there is a white pole there. So the manager of resilience is going around looking everywhere. There's a great one in Bayview Street at Bexley. I said, I don't think the residents would like it. Right outside the Coptic Church. Great place. But they just park there anyway. So is it such a criteria that I think the report coming back won't delay it, and we'll look at it further, and everyone, when they see it, I think it needs to go to every councillor to see. You've got to look at your own area and think, oh, maybe that won't work. So it was the fact that what we saw wasn't what you saw at the committee. So hopefully it'll be here shortly and you'll be able to all look at it. But it's a criteria that is limiting it to certain spots.
Yeah, the critical point, thank you, Councillor Barlow, is that we've got to do the trial first. We must do that. Yeah, so let's.
So, Mr. Mayor, just harping back, and I know I've wasted a lot of time here. Director City Life, through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what percentage of people own an electric car, but we're taking away a spot. We're taking away 7 spots. What benefit do we get outside of that? I know it's a trial. Will we be charging these companies in the future to have those particular facilities? Because notionally, I would have thought petrol stations and other places like that, you see them inside shopping centres, which are there as an attraction for customers. For us, we're losing a spot. They're putting their infrastructure in. They're getting paid for their electricity. And the only benefit is maybe 3%, maybe 2% of the population have an electric car. So how does that work in the whole picture?
Deborah?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We haven't even begun to look at those commercial negotiations yet. We're simply looking at a trial situation at the moment to see what the uptake and the success of it is. We would then look at, this is one company. We'd have to go out to EOI to look at who comes back with the best offer for council. So that's how we would proceed. But we're just asking for the approval to get this trial underway because it starts in October and we are at risk of missing out if we can't determine the locations for the trial. 4 new sites have been proposed, and they're currently with IntelliHub looking through their assessment criteria to make sure that they meet those, and they were the sites that were discussed in locations at the traffic committee. So a report is proposed to come back to the October City Services Committee with those final locations to be able to get the trial underway. And then commercial negotiations we will look into very closely and look at EOIs and see what the market is offering to council.
Well,
Can I just make one comment was also reminded me was they were having problems with Ausgrid not telling them what pole. It has to be on an Ausgrid pole, and they weren't communicating where it was. There's poles in our car parks, but they're only light poles. They're not strong enough. So there's been a delay in giving us the information from Ausgrid.
Can I just make a comment in response to Councillor Souness's question about what does this actually give us other than losing a car park? As somebody who's been driving an electric vehicle for 18 months, I go out of my way to go to Maroubra to the Heffron Centre to charge my vehicle. I go across the road to the shopping centre and do my shopping there. I take my kids to BK Gymnastics there because there's a charger there. I go there because there's a charger. It's the same with the West Walls End that I mentioned in Newcastle, Karua as I go up up the coast. And when I've stopped at Karua at the local cafe, they've said, how do we get more of these things here? Because they attract business to this local community in a way that we've been forgotten off the highway. So I think we need to actually think about that these are actually attractions for people. It might be a small percentage of the community at the moment, but it's a growing percentage, and it will be a growing percentage.
Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, I'll put it all in favour, so aye. Those against no, declare it carried. We're on now on notice of motions. Councillor Fardell, domestic cat night time curfew. It's moved by Councillor Fardell, seconded by Councillor Awada. Councillor Fardell.
Thank you. Sadly, more than 550 of our native animals are at risk of being lost forever. Habitat destruction, invasive predators, inappropriate fires, and the increasing impacts of changing climate are pushing many of our precious wildlife to the brink of extinction. We've already lost more than 60 of our unique species, so let's encourage government to implement policies that can make a difference. New South Wales and Western Australia are the only states that allow local governments to introduce cat curfews, whether that be dawn to dusk or 24/7. In Victoria, for example, over 38 councils have cat containment rules, but this is prohibited in New South Wales by outdated laws. A simple change in the New South Wales Companion Animals Act 1998 would give this power to councils like ours. When pet cats are allowed to freely roam beyond their property, they are at greater risk of injury and premature death. According to the RSPCA, cats kept safely at home live up to 10 years longer, and 2 in 3 cat owners have lost a cat due to roaming-related accidents. Of those, 1 in 3 to a car accident. This is why major animal organisations like the RSPCA and PETA recommend keeping cats at home 24/7. In New South Wales, 14 councils, including Hornsby Shire Council, Blue Mountains Council and Wollongong City Council, have supported the introduction of stricter regulations since 2018. New research by the Australian National University conducted for the Biodiversity Council, Invasive Species Council and BirdLife Australia found that roaming cats kill 546 million animals a year in Australia, 323 million of which are native animals. The research also found that pet cats kill 6,000 to 11,000 native animals per square kilometre each year in urban areas. In some jurisdictions, local councils have the power to implement pet management restrictions, such as cat curfews. Co-author of the new report, Australian National University ecologist Professor Sarah Legg, further crunched the data to determine cat ownership in each major city, as well as the annual death toll to native wildlife from pet cats. She found there were more than 1 million cats each in Greater Sydney and Greater Melbourne,
in which about 767,000 and 730,000 pet cats roam respectively each year. These cats kill about 65 million native animals annually in Greater Sydney and 62 million annually in Greater Melbourne. We can't change a cat's natural behaviour, but we can support better choices by cat owners. And let me say, we've always had cats. We don't have one at the moment because live in a ground floor apartment and it'd be jumping off the balcony. But we've always had cats, and I love cats, but we've always kept them indoors. So I am talking from experience. So I hope you will support this motion.
Councillor Jensen.
Look, I'm aware of the damage that cats cause to the environment as well, so I'm kind of passionate about this topic too. But I'd just like to propose a few additions to the motion by Councillor Bardell to strengthen it, and that being that that council notes that the Bayside Keeping of Animals policy, which was adopted by council in 2020, already has recommendations in regards to cat ownership, including keep in night where possible. And I did research the program that Councillor Bardell cited in the background information that RSPCA is conducting at the moment. So the second addition that I propose is that council contacts RSPCA New South Wales to determine whether it can become a partner council in the Keeping Cats Safe at Home project. And that project currently creates tailored toolkits for partner councils as well as resources for cat owners. So it does education programs as well. So I'll pass that over to government. So hoping that you support that addition, Councillor Bardell.
Yes, I'm happy for that addition.
Yep, it's incorporated. Yep. Yep, and what's happened? Any other speakers?
I'll
Councillor
just
Barlow?
make a couple of comments of the clear non-pecuniary interest. I have a cat
So you
at
had
the
cats?
moment, it's a moggy, it's unknown age.
Not up to scratch.
But the previous cat, and I meant to bring a beautiful picture of her, was 3 months off her 21st when she passed away. Now, I can guarantee you she never ever caught a bird. She used to sleep under the grevilleas and the wattle birds would be above it, but she was a really good mouser. And because I had aviaries, I had mice. So every cat's different, but I can understand my cat's always stayed inside at night anyway, and a lot of the feral cats are problems. But I actually had a problem, and I still have a problem at home, and guess what? It's not a cat. It is those rotten Australian noisy miners. I used to have wattle birds come every single year, bring their babies to my callistomen for 10, 15 years. They don't come anymore. The New Holland honey eaters don't come anymore. They're not killed by the cats. It's those rotten, noisy miners. Also, I had blue wrens. I haven't got them anymore. So really, to look at it, you really should be looking at the noisy miners and the bin chickens. They shouldn't be on the protected list anymore. They are the ones that are destroying a lot of our native wildlife, our birds anyway. So I believe that there's other things other than a cat that is scaring our wildlife away. So, as I said, I had beautiful birds and the wattle birds were lovely. They're not there anymore. Coels didn't come this year, but that sometimes they miss a year. But anyway, but my cat, until 20, had never ever caught a bird, but caught a lot of mice, even when she was 18. Bin chickens.
Councillor Bardell, in reply.
What Councillor Barlow said about the noisy miners is true. As you know, I'm somewhat of a bird expert and I lead a bird watching group, part of Willow Creek Preservation Society. It wouldn't matter if you took the noisy miners off the, they are a big problem. Had the same thing happen in our house in Bardwell Valley. They moved in, all the little birds moved out. They've been culling noisy miners in various locations to solve this problem. What happened is the next family of noisy miners moved in where they killed all the other noisy miners. It doesn't work. So you could take them off the native species list and start culling them all over the place and they'll just come back. The only way you can combat the problem is if we educate the public about what to plant in their gardens, and certain plantings, dense plantings, thorny plantings of natives, that's what helps the small birds. Noisy miners it's just almost an impossible problem. Grevillea, that's right, they do love grevilleas, that's why you shouldn't plant them. So I don't think that's got anything to do with the motion about the cats. The cats are a big problem, there's no doubt about it, even though they're gorgeous, and most of us love cats, they kill the native animals,
True.
And a lot of them are already endangered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fardell. I'll put it. All in favour say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. And Councillor Byers asked to abstain. Okay, next item, we're on 12.2. Notice the motion, Ramsgate Life Sailing Club, upgrade. Councillor Hannah. It's moved by Councillor Hannah. Do I have a second? Councillor Barlow. Any speakers? Councillor Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I've brought this motion because I've actually been down at this club quite a bit in recent times, and particularly during COVID, I was swimming in the netted area there. And I did note that it was essentially pretty well the same size as what it was back in the 1950s. And I learnt to swim at Pem's Baths there when I was 4 years of age. And I remember going to the club presentation nights in the hall there. Now, the Life-Saving Club itself has been in existence for about 89 or 90 years, and it's been in that location since about 1951. They're up to about 450 or so children that are members that they actually train there, and they range in age from about age 3 up to 15. They're basically squeezed for space. They're using a shipping container to store a lot of their equipment. They've only got quite a small storage area within the building itself. They've got very, very limited toilet and showers within their building, but next to it they do have some public showers and toilets, but they're essentially open to the public. So when they've got their programs running, they essentially haven't got enough room. So the reason for this notice of motion is just to basically get it on the radar, to try and get council to maybe commit some funds to see whether or not in the next financial year they could look at what could be done to perhaps expand the facilities there to cater for the fact that the number of children that are actually learning skills there, water skills, is growing. I believe the club's going to have to cap it at 500 this year because they can't cope with any more children. So this is just designed just to get the ball rolling. I believe this is the only non-ocean beach club that is actually affiliated with Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, if I'm right. Sorry? Another one? Oh, okay. Well, one of only a couple. Anyway, that's what it's all about, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Morrissey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a few concerns with this motion, respectfully, Councillor Hannah. It doesn't seem to be written in the normal eloquence that we expect from you, to be frank. Sorry? I know. There's no puns in it. But I will suggest that this is like cart before the horse, as you suggested earlier. So firstly, 100%, I am for improving community assets and spending money. It's not our money, it's community money, and we need to spend everything should go back to the community. 100%. No problem with that. And I think that's evidenced by the work that the council has done over the past 2 years across all wards. So it's just conflicting that. So the council staff assist the Lifesaving Club by providing advice about planning and property issues, but we need to budget for that. So to the director, what if that sounds to me like a DA, pre-DA type meeting, which we would I would hope, provide as part of business as usual to any applicant, particularly community, without the need for a specific budget. So what is suggested that we plan for in 24-25 in terms of providing preliminary advice about the relevant planning and property issues? Council owns the building and council owns the land. So I've got other questions.
Yeah, I'll get the gentleman.
So I just might make an initial comment and then the director could answer a bit more specific about planning. As I understand it, and we've experienced it before, where community groups have ideas and aspirations, but being able to translate those into something that is deliverable, it becomes more complex than they anticipate. So point 2 would see us doing no more than looking at their functional or preliminary concept design and saying, well, that's going to require change to the plan of management, or that's going to require Crown Lands approval, or no, you're in a riparian zone, you can't do that. What we want to ensure is that clubs don't go and put a lot of energy and money into coming up with designs that could never be built. So in my view, and I would have made a comment at the bottom of the GM comment, I don't believe that this should involve any funding from council at this point in time, no more than using our expertise to say the footprint that you are looking at has these issues and these complexities. Or no, a 3-storey building would not be approved there. No, it's not consistent with the plan of management, if that's what they wanted to do.
That's my point, because we would do that for any community group that is under the auspices or under our LGA, I would expect. So that's why I'm questioning the need for 3, that we have we put it as a priority project for 24-25 when we're just providing advice to say, no, a riparian zone is huge in that area, that I'm sure that would impact Cook Park management issues, who owns the land, what can and can't be done, etc., sand dunes, all that sort of stuff. So we would do that. So why is the need? Why do we have to consider this as a project, put as priority for 24-25 in the operational plan and budget, if we would just be using our expertise? I have an answer, please.
While I can't speak for the movers, I think that this is about putting a project on the radar to be considered when the capital works plan is considered by council. I think that's the intent here, and the councils that moved this could probably confirm or correct that. The first 2 points are about giving our professional expertise. The third point, from the way I'm reading it, is actually saying, councillors, when you consider the capital works plan, this would be considered as a priority for the 24-25 operational plan.
So can I just ask a question then? That wasn't how I read it, but maybe that's the intention. But how do we prioritise a project if we don't know what it is?
True.
Is that the intention there, Councillor Hannah?
Look, I don't believe it is. I think this is just mainly to get it on the radar, just to identify the fact that the facilities there are currently stretched. I mean, if point 3 is causing concern, I wouldn't have any problems removing that point from the motion. I think what the club and the club members and the children are concerned about is the fact that they are, it's their facilities have reached capacity. So they're attempting to come up with ways to actually expand what they've got there to cope with the demand. That's what it's all about. So I mean, I'm happy to drop off point 3 if that's causing issues. In a way, it's probably better.
Councillor Morrissey.
So also, if we move to the background, I'm curious to know who has had preliminary discussions with Surf Life Saving New South Wales and Sport New South Wales.
Not me.
not the fireman. But it says here that we have, so I want to know who has.
My understanding is that it's the club officials, not,
Okay,
not the
and
council.
Through you, Chair, and if you don't know the answer, I understand, but what club officials have spoken to Surf Lifing Australia and Sport New South Wales? Who's the club officials?
I don't know the answer to that, but that's my understanding, that it's actually the club officials.
Respectfully, it's your motion, and you've written it. So this is why I have problems with this motion. So the second one is, the second part of that paragraph says, who are ready to fund shovel-ready projects. So what commitment, who has spoken to Surf Life Saving New South Wales, and who has spoken to Sport New South Wales who are ready to fund shovel-ready projects? Noting that Sport New South Wales is an advocacy body to help people obtain grants, and they don't actually fund anything. But here it says they are ready to fund shovel-ready projects. So someone in the club who you don't know has had discussions with Surf Life New South Wales and Sport New South Wales who have made a commitment and said, we're ready to fund shovel-ready projects. We've got a project on here that we actually don't know the scope of the project. I don't know if there's a response available to that at this time. The second part is that Ramsgate Lifesaving is not a surf lifesaving club. They have no affiliation whatsoever with Surf Lifesaving New South Wales. It's a completely different entity. Ramsgate Lifesaving Club does not patrol the beach. And on that, and this is what I'm saying, Mr. Councillor Hannah, you're normally a lot more eloquent. So I actually spoke to the Chief Operating Officer of Surf Lifesaving, because I said, Councillor, I'm a Maroubra clubby, I've been around for a few years, and I really want to thank you for your support about this funding, because I was unaware of it, but I'm part of Bayside. This is awesome. It's fantastic. And he was a bit silent. And then he said, in writing, I confirm, thanks for taking my call to discuss, well, he called me. Thanks for taking my call to discuss the background to Ramsgate Lifesaving Club's statements. And I just gave him the motion. That's what it says.
Public document.
Around support for their building extension. I confirm that there have not been any discussions between Surf Lifesaving New South Wales and the Ramsgate Lifesaving Club with respect to any development of their club building and or assistance from New South Wales, Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, in either providing funding directly or supporting an application for funding from anybody, any funding body. I caused a stir, because then they got panicky thinking, who's committed funding to Ramsgate Lifesaving when they're not affiliated with us? So he's called Sydney Branch, and I'm a member of Sydney Branch. I've spoken to the President and Deputy President of Sydney Branch to try and find out some more, and both of them confirmed the branch similarly have not had any such discussions. New South Wales Sport is an advocacy body, and I said, do they find it? No, that sounds weird. I suspect, it's about something about other sport. The Office of Sport, anyway, it goes on, but you get the gist of it. So fundamentally, we've got a request for funding for a project that we don't know what it is. We're talking about a club that is not affiliated with Surf Lifesaving New South Wales. Apparently people from the club have spoken to Surf Lifesaving New South Wales who have made a commitment to say we're ready to fund shovel-ready projects, as has Sport New South Wales, who aren't actually a funding body. So the whole thing, in my view, is rubbish. And supporting it is just supporting something that doesn't. So I'm happy for the motion to come back at some point. But if anyone can support it in its current form, it's just, with the background that's published out in the public forum, is just completely incorrect. I think that's about all. I'm happy to answer any question about my discussions, because it's, thank you.
Councillor Nagy.
First, Mr. Mayor, it seems like there's politics everywhere, even in the surfing club. But through you, to the mover, I'd like to ask, what is the role of the Ramsgate Lifesaving? What do they do? Although it's a silly question, I have an idea, but I'd like you to put it on record. What do they do, the Ramsgate Lifesaving Club?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, my understanding is that they run programs for children. They teach them water skills, they run education programs, and they run water activities in the water there, water safety activities. And I believe there's about 450 children enrolled in it, aging from 3 to about 15 years of age. That's their predominant function. I believe they've got about 100 or so casual members, adult members, but those members are mainly members for the purposes of swimming in the netted area. Yeah, yes. It's true that they don't patrol the beach, but I don't see that this, in its current form, really commits council to anything apart from providing some advice to the club.
Thank you, Mr
Councillor
Mayor.
Nudging.
Look, I commend Councillor Hannah for putting this on the radar, and I think that's the role and the duty of any civic councillor. I'm surprised we have 3 very dedicated Fifth Ward councillors and led by a very experienced Councillor McDougall. Although, you know, Councillor Hannah must have gone down swimming or going past and he noticed that. And the role of any councillor is to bring things with community facilities to the radar of council. And what really upset me, and it is so shameful, when Councillor Hannah mentioned that they use a shipping container for storage. That is shameful. That is shameful for whatever reason. Now, that brought memories back to me for Arncliffe Park and councillors who've been here long enough, Councillor Saranovsky, Councillor Barlow, Councillor Wada, and they gave them a shipping container in Arncliffe Park, painted it and said, this is your storage, this is your facility, this is your community. I got so mad. I was elected in 2004 and I took an oath that I would not let this happen. And when Councillor Hannah brought up a container, a shipping container on there to be used for storage or whatever, this is shameful. And I commend you, Councillor Hannah, for bringing this to the radar of this council. As a councillor, of course, it all needs financial budgeting and things like that, but that's the job of our financial director, if there is any money around or not. But it doesn't hurt to get council to speak to the life-saving club. Now, they might not patrol and they might not be association of the big association of New South Wales, but the fact is they're teaching kids. And I bet you most of these kids are from this LGA. We have a duty. They are trained how to deal with water problems, programs, how to save lives, how to save themselves, how to train them. They are our kids, Mr. Mayor. Are we going to walk away from that responsibility because of maybe, with respect, and I agree with Councillor Morrissey that we need to find, you can't have a project without knowing where the funding, you can't. But I believe in, if the intent is to start talking to the Life-Saving Club for the sake of our kids, for the sake of life-saving on the beaches, is we should support this. Support just the start talking, and if there is a concept later, then bring it back to council, like what we do with all other associations, whether it's soccer, whether it's rugby, whether it's AFL, whether it's basketball, whatever, bring it back. And if there is money, if there is, then we'll do something about it. If there isn't, then we got to leave it up to the director to see how in the future we can deal with that. But to have a shipping container, I'm ashamed myself to make sure that we let this happen. We should provide extra support not only to the Life-Saving Club, to every community facility across the LGA, all across the LGA, all code of sports, all code of programs. This is a community-based council, and that's what I believe in, and that's what I'm passionate about. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. If I could just have a quick go. So my issue was, let me say, I'm happy with the motion as it now stands. My issue was the incorrect factual, and Councillor Nader, you've been last term, this term, we always talk about making sure we have the facts and the facts are correct. So the fact that now number 3 is gone absolutely makes sense, but I would like to add number 3, that the last paragraph be removed from the background for the record, because that's untrue, and that's my point. I'm all for making sure, and I know the patrolling political, that's not it. It's the fact that some claims were made about Surf Life Saving New South Wales and Sport New South Wales, but they're untrue, right? The conversations have not been had, and that was my point. So I'm happy and I'm welcome the opportunity for council to support the club with 400 or 500 kids. Absolutely, I've been working with kids at the beach for 15 years. So absolutely we need to support that. But the way that it was written with number 3 asking for funding for a project that doesn't exist and saying that funding shovel ready, that's yeah. So in that form, I'm happy with it. And so I'm supportive of council helping the club in that respect. Thank you.
Councillor Warner.
Thank you. Just for clarity, can I just ask through the mayor what the precedent is for council being, consulting to the club like this? I'm sure it's probably happened before, but I just wanted to have that clarified.
To answer your question, I can't recall ever. Can I just backtrack a bit? Council many years ago looked at this site and came up with concept drawings, and there were some major issues: parking, there were structural issues. My personal view is there shouldn't have been a notice of motion, because the second point is that's just a normal day-to-day when an organisation comes to council. Of course our officers are going to talk. My only issue is that why Ramsgate Life Saving Club? Why did it have to come up to a council resolution? We just dealt with Riverine Park. There was no resolution by council to say, let's go and assist Uncle Laura, for example, or Rockdale City Sons, or Gardens Park. My personal view is you should consider withdrawing it and putting in a council request, because councillors, as I said before, we looked at this a number of years ago, didn't stack up. There's massive problems of parking. Can I just say, I totally support what the Ramsgate Life Saving Swimming Club do. I've had a long association with them when the late Bill Batley was there. My only concern is we're giving them a false hope, because it's on Crown land. The existing commercial operator, which I happened to walk past and have a cup of coffee a few weeks ago, they want to encroach into the parkland because they don't have enough room on it. I have reservations. Like I support the organisation, but I just have reservations where, and particularly governance issues, we can't process the DA because we've got an interest in it, whatever the concept is. So I have issues with that, because Mr. Barber's staff, what are they going to do? Tell them it's not permissible in the zoning. We have to change the planner manager, which we'd have to. And what Councillor Morrissey said, we're agreeing to something to assist, but we don't actually know what it is. Are they talking about a commercial operation, reception centre, or another restaurant? And as I said before, I totally support the committee that does the kids there with the swimming. It's got to a point where, yes, and I'm concerned about the container there, but I just don't want to have false hope to the committee that, considering what happened a few years ago, where we looked at a 2-storey building and it didn't stack up. There's major problems with parking down there. As I said, I just want to keep harking back. I totally support the club there on their operations for the kids, and they should be commended in terms of teaching the kids how to swim. But it's not normal to have a notice of motion to say, yep, go and talk to the staff, or the staff are going to assist you. I just, like, what's Mr. Barber going to say? It's not permissible in the zoning. What's going to happen then? This is Crown land. Are they going to encroach on public land at the moment? And if they do, then it's I just don't, as I said, I hope I've answered the question. I've never seen this before. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. look, I support majority of things in Ward 5 and I do support this. I'm quite surprised that some people have brought this to our attention in this format. And I'm going to repeat some of the comments that have been said in the past. This is not a notice of motion. Quote, I won't say who it is because I don't want to get in trouble, but this is not a notice of motion. From what I understand, something of this magnitude, let's say a club like Banksia, Gardner Park, want to do a clubhouse, want to extend something, they would make representation through the correct channels. It would not be a notice of motion where we say, let's do this and let's do that. You'd go through the mayor, you'd go through the directors, you'd make an appointment, you'd look at all the avenues. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to quote again what people usually say about me. How can we make this a priority before we have costings to the costings lady, councillor? To the costings councillor. This, I think it's quite obvious who it is. And I'll apologise just in case someone wants an apology. I'll apologise, I'll withdraw it. I'll withdraw it again. However, the person that constantly asks for costings and what is the costings? What is the costing of a ball? What is the costing of a road? What is the costing of this? That motion, number 3, that thank God to Councillor Morrissey for asking for its removal, basically said, let's make it a priority without costings. That's unbelievable. Can I just say to my brother on the other side, Councillor Morrissey, that is the best response I have ever heard to a motion. So well done what you just debunked that politely, respectfully. Well done. That is amazing what you put it in a different planet. You kicked it out, you bashed it out of the park. So well done. To summarise, whether you're for or against this is not the point. I think right now, the Ramsgate life-saving upgrade, it's not a notice of motion. We can't just say, yeah, let's do it. Let's investigate it. Let it go through the correct channels. Let it be the appropriate way. Let it go through the main people up here that are getting paid the big bucks, as Councillor Savranovsky, our mayor, always says, the big bucks are here. Let them analyse it. Let them go through it.
I've never said it.
Yeah.
I've never said it.
No, in the past. Okay, and also the club. Okay, I'll take it back.
Yeah,
I'll withdraw it.
yeah,
I'll withdraw it.
yeah.
Not the big bucks. Okay. I'll withdraw it. I'll withdraw it. Those rolly guys. Okay, withdraw. But if we're going to do this right, let the club approach council and make a proper submission.
True. Any other speakers?
More a
Councillor
question,
Dodds? Yeah.
Mr. Mayor. So if we withdrew this, if this motion was withdrawn, is there anything to stop point 2 that the council staff assist the life-saving club? Is that a natural thing that would
Normal.
happen anyway,
That's right.
with or without a motion?
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor
I was
Butler?
one of the few councils, it was last term, that went to their, well, it would have been over their 80th birthday. I think Steve Camper was there, some of the councils were there. I was amazed at what activities they do there. And it was Ramsgate RSL were there with the defibrillator, showing the kids how to do CPR. So there was a lot of things there that they do. The kids were just so excited, especially when they were getting their new uniforms. And it's a photo of me with the hat on. I've forgotten which councils were there, but so the issue is, I think, that once you've talked about it, you've got to go looking for the funding. The funding's not coming from council, so you've got to go looking for it from somewhere. There'll be, there's fundings that comes through, and it's just on notice, the same as with Lytham Hall, trying to get more funding for Lytham Hall to finish it. So the areas there, yes, I do count money. Well, I don't have a lot, but I check. It's not my money when it's here. But the idea was to put it on notice so that we've got to look for funding, and there's a lot of grants will be coming about. You've just got to keep your eye on it and try and... But was the fact of what they do with those children. I mean, I learnt to swim there. I learnt at Pemberton Bars, but I used to swim out there as well, where Coles is now. But That's where the monkeys were. They had, it's quite an interesting, very scary slide that I never went down. It was very high. So that it was a place that I learnt to swim at. It's been a place there that's been a lot of people learn, and they do provide a fantastic service to the community. And there's a lot of kids that can't get to a surf beach. I personally hate surf. I used to swim in the Tamar River in Tasmania, so I like still water. So you've got a facility that's it's local, it's not at Cronulla, it's not wherever you want to go where there's a surf beach. So it's giving providing a service to the kids of the area that can't get, or not parents that can't drive to Cronulla, Bermuda or Coogee or wherever. I've never been to those beaches over there. I've been to Cronulla, but that's about all. So I think it's something that it's on notice now that people will be looking to look for the funding, and that's what the club has to do. The toilets and that, I can remember when they were built, they're really not the best. So anyway, it's there, and I think it's more about putting it on notice for everyone.
Okay. Any other speakers? If not, Councillor Hannah.
Yeah, look, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think councillors, please don't be frightened about this, because the wording of this motion now is pretty benign, and it essentially just says that the council will make itself available to enter into discussions with the club about potential improvements. I mean, it doesn't really commit the council to anything more than that. And in respect of it being a notice of motion, it's now been watered down to an extent that it's just really opening dialogue. And I will make the point that the notice of motion in its previous form was signed off by the General Manager stating that the notice of motion is in order and can be dealt with. So I don't accept the fact that it shouldn't be a notice of motion. There's no reason why it can't be brought into this chamber, and there's certainly no reason why it can't be put on the radar where this council can make staff available to have some discussions with the club. It may well be that the discussions result in, look, nothing can be done, and that'll be the end of it. So I don't see any reason why this shouldn't pass. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that closes the debate. All in favour of the notice of motion, please say aye. Those against? I declare it carried then. Thank you. If we can ask Councillor Soons to come back in. Yeah. Councillors, seeking your advice whether we go into confidential session about the confidential report on recyclable supply agreement. Good. Councillor Warner.
I was just wondering if the if that tender had anything about soft plastics. I don't know if we need to go into confidential to discuss that.
No.
Might not have to.
Joe.
So through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, at the moment, it's just the commingled recycling that you get in your yellow lidded bin. So it doesn't refer to any soft plastic.
You okay with that, Councillor Warner? All right. Well, if I could have someone move that we adopt the confidential report. Moved by Councillor Soon, seconded by Councillor Naji. Any speakers? If not, I declare it carried. Questions with notice? Yep. So, other than that, I'll declare the meeting closed at